talk today about something called executive functions. And before we start, I just want to kind of get a feel of who you are. How many of you have a kindergartner or a first or second grader? Raise your hand. Wow, it's the room. Okay, how many have third, fourth, or fifth graders? Raise your hand. All right, about half. That's awesome. How many of you have had your children in CLPS more than 1 year? Raise your hand. This is really good information because those of you who are at CLPS and who've been here before, you understand what Satellite Day means, right? So Satellite Day is when we get to make sure our children do all the checklists from all the different assignments that we've been sent home. And today we want to talk about how to give you tools so that you get to do less and the kid does more, right? So the child's more independent, they can take charge of their own work, they start themselves in the morning, they understand what they're supposed to do, and they're not waiting on you to run get their pencil, to open their book, to go find their backpack, to figure out what they're supposed to do, to tell them it's time to start. How do you get these kids to take charge of themselves? And that's what we're going to talk about today. Just give you a few tools. So the exciting thing about CLPS is that they have decided this year to actually have a focus with the teachers in the classroom, as well as with you parents, on just one or two of these, actually three, of the executive functions that we want to talk about and we want to work on as a goal for the students this year. So the first thing we need to do is say, what in the world is an executive function? What do you already know about this term? It's kind of gotten some buzz on education sites and parent sites. Someone yell out, what is an executive function? What's an example of one, or how would you define it? Yes, ma'am. The skill you need to move throughout your day. Somebody else. It's a great one. Executive function. What do executives do? Somebody over here? Thought I saw a hand. Yes, sir. Get things done. Okay? What do you have to do to get things done? Give me some task analysis here. What do you do when you need to get something done? What are some of the processes here? Plan. Good. What else? Organize. Prioritize. You're looking at your papers too. What else? Louder? Execute. Move it forward. Very good. Here's a definition. Executive functions are the cognitive processes. Cognitive just means thinking. So when you hear that word, think cognitive, just say to yourself, thinking, that occur in the frontal lobe area of the brain, right here behind the forehead, that allow one to plan, organize, make decisions, pay attention, regulate behavior, solve problems, and evaluate decisions. Anytime I want to teach my children something, I ask the Lord, what do you say about this, Lord? I want to take it back to the why, right? So I asked myself, and I asked the teachers yesterday, what does the Bible say about executive functions? Can you think of any Bible verses that could possibly relate to planning or organizing or behavior? Yes. Did y'all hear that? Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. lean not into your own understanding. Somebody else? Yes. Deuteronomy 6.
Talk about it day and night, talk about it.
Right. Train your children in the way, as you go along the way, as you're sitting, and right, good, okay? So it's in the part of your life. So you're talking about training your children, right? You're training. That's cool. The ones that came to my mind, I thought about the psalmist who says, Lord, help me number my days. I'm thinking of a day planner. I'm numbering my days. I'm ordering something. I thought about let's see if I can get to my next one. The fruit of the Spirit that says self-control. Against such there is no law. There is a principle of self-control in the Word that we are commanded to follow. There's the verse in Corinthians that talks about the church services were just getting all out of order, and they said, let everything be done decently and in order. And he was talking about the structure of it, just a little out of context, but still, we want our homes in order, we want everything to be done decently, our kids to behave decently, right? So there's that principle. And then I love the one that says, take every thought captive and bring it into submission to the will of God. How do we teach our children to not just think about that that focus, the intentionality of our kids when they're working? So how do we train them to take their thoughts under control and apply them to the task at hand? And is that a biblical principle, right? So these are some Bible verses that came to my mind as I asked the Lord to show me, how does this relate? So when we train our children in executive functions, the 19th century educator Charlotte Mason said that we are training habits of character, that executive functions are habits of character. Here's one of her quotes. In the first place, never let the child dawdle over copybook or sum, sit dreaming with his book before him. When a child grows stupid over a lesson, it is time to put it away. Let him do another lesson as unlike the last as possible, then go back with freshened wits to his unfinished task. Her primary focus of habit was to train the attention of the child. I think she would have believed in the axiom of play hard, work hard. When you're doing something, you're doing it with everything you got, right? You're doing it right now as hard as you can with your full focus. And then you break and you move to the next thing. She did not put up with dawdly, daydreaming types of behavior when it came to schoolwork. She believed also in creating habits of excellence and complete effort. So these are some examples of executive functions. I'm going to just describe them briefly. Impulse control helps your child think before acting. Kids with weak impulse control might blurt out inappropriate things. They're also more likely to engage in risky behavior. Emotional control helps your child keep his feelings in check. Kids with weak emotional control often overreact. They can have trouble dealing with criticism and then regrouping themselves when something goes wrong. Flexible thinking allows your child to adjust to the unexpected. Kids with rigid thinking don't roll with the punches. They might get frustrated if asked to think about something from a different angle. Working memory helps your child keep key information in mind. Kids with weak working memory have trouble remembering directions, even if they have taken notes and even if you have repeated them several times. Self-monitoring allows your child to evaluate how he's doing. Kids with weak self-monitoring skills may be surprised by a bad grade or surprised by negative feedback. Planning and prioritizing help your child decide on a goal and a plan to meet that goal. Kids with weak planning and prioritizing skills may not know which parts of a project are the most important. Task initiation helps your child take action and get started. Kids who have weak task initiation skills may freeze up because they have no idea where to begin. Organization lets your child keep track of things physically and mentally. Kids with weak organizational skills can lose their train of thought, as well as their cell phone and their homework. If you had to tell me the one area that you would love to work on, what would the one be of those that we just described? I would love an answer almost from every table. I just would love to hear from you now. Working memory. Can't remember what we just talked about. Task initiation. How do you get them started? Self-monitoring, knowing if they are doing what they're supposed to be doing and if they're in a timely manner. Are we finished on time, or are we still on track? What else? Anybody have trouble with the backpack? Emotional control, yes. And isn't it nice these are not just academic goals, because really, social and emotional spiritual goals are more important than grades and schoolwork. Hear me on that. As the learning specialist, I want you to know your whole child is made up so much more than just their academic performance. And it is critical that they hear from you. Their social and emotional, spiritual well-being is considered as you make decisions about their academics and as you're teaching them these skills, right? So important, emotional control. All right, anybody else have one that in your home is particularly challenging? Organization. Good. Well, the ones that CLPS has decided to focus on are the ones on your paper there. Organization, planning, task initiation. These are the three that the administration have decided to work on. So as you at home are going to partner with the teachers to help focus on these skills, I'd like you to think about approaching the tasks that your child has at home. And you ask yourself, not what do they need to do today, but instead, how are they going to do what they need to do today? You're going to have to engage in some executive functioning called task analysis. You are going to have to think backwards of all the steps and parts that you know they are going to have to need. If you ever find yourself looking at your child and thinking to yourself, they should be able to do this, well then let me just tell you what I want you to tell yourself. They're lacking the skill. This is not always a willful problem. This is an issue where they didn't get it through osmosis by watching other people do it, right? Somebody now needs to break this down and train it as a task for them and show them the baby steps in between that they're not picking up, they're not getting it, right? Let me give you an example. 6th, 7th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, there's a huge change in expectation for personal organization in the classroom. Up through about 5th, 6th grade, there's a lot of parents putting together the homework packet, putting together the backpack, making sure the backpack's at the back door. But somewhere in that junior high age, the parents begin to expect the kids to get their own backpack, right, to that door. And if the child does not have good organizational skills and they don't do it, there can be a lot of strife in the family because the child's not performing these things. And so one of the best ideas I heard to teach a 6th or 7th grader how to organize their backpack was the dad decided every Sunday night we were going to have ice cream and backpack night. And so about 6 p.m. they pulled out all the messy backpack, they pulled out the ice cream, they had a great time going, where does this go? Where does this go? Where does this go? And over the course of a year, the dad was able to do less and less prompting. The child's doing more and more of the deciding. And by modeling with a positive attitude, the child finally has learned how to do that. But the kids who are, if you hear yourself thinking, they should be able to do this, that should tell you, I need to stop and break this down, just like how to throw a baseball. We gotta see this as a skill. And the frustration is coming from not having the next requisite skill. And again, definition of frustration, not having the next little skill that's needed to make that step. They are trying to make a step that's too big. So if there's frustration, they're missing that next requisite skill that they need. All right, examples of, let's see, this is not what I wanted to do. So these are the 3 that are focusing. So I know some of you already do some of these really well. Some of you are successful. You've had 2 or 3 kids here at CLPS. You've got some systems down and you've got some routines for organizing your kids, for how to help them to plan. And I would love for you to turn to your table. I'd like to get 5 or 6 people together, and I would like for y'all to share 2 or 3 ideas of little systems that work at your house. And if you're a brand new parent, this is your first time at CLPS, try to find somebody that has been here that says, yeah, we've worked through some things and now this is what's working for us, and see if you guys can share with each other. I'm just going to give you 2 or 3 minutes to talk. I want y'all to share with some things that work, and I want to walk around in here. Okay, begin.
Have y'all been here before? No, y'all are first here. Yeah, oh, so just started. Yeah, it's your talk. Oh, we have 2.
Gosh, I don't want to stop you guys. I love this sharing. If you have a very wise parent sitting near you, be sure you get their name and their email on your little note card, your notes there before you leave the room today, because you can call them. Yes, you guys are great resources for each other, and I just want to encourage you to share positively with each other. So I want you to repeat this after me. The one doing the talking is the one doing the learning. Repeat. Again, the one doing the talking is the one doing the learning. Repeat. The one doing the talking is the one doing the learning. Why is this important? There's a research psychologist named Vygotsky, believes in the theory of social speech learning development. It's a theory of learning, how people learn. He believes that you first get introduced to a new idea by talking to someone about it or hearing them talk about it. Then the next stage of learning development is they tell themselves. They talk back to themselves as they are rehearsing what they heard, right? It's like when you see someone doing a math problem and they're telling themselves the steps out loud that they heard their teacher tell them how to do it, right? So they're talking to themselves through the new skill or the new knowledge. And then the 3rd level that he describes is called inner speech. Inner speech is where the behavior has become so comfortable and so automatic and so integrated with their understanding that they no longer have to think actual words to do it. Think about something like tying your shoe. How do you teach a child to tie the shoe? First, you have to do a lot of interactive speech. You're talking them through it. They're having to respond to you. Tell me what you do next. What do we do next? Whatever. Then, a month later, you watch them talking to themselves out loud as they're tying their shoe, telling themselves the steps. And then a year later, they're chatting to you about something totally different while they're tying their shoe. It's internalized, right? So if you think about this process of learning as a theory, you need to get your kid to tell you what they're doing all the time. So here's my challenge. Never read the directions to your children again. Whose job is it? They read it to you. They tell you what it means. Different words. Then you know exactly the part they got and exactly the part they missed, right? Then you say, let's read that again. Read that again to me. They read it again, and you say, what are you supposed to do? They tell you. You are teaching them to be independent, to initiate. That's that initiation piece. You're teaching them to read their own directions and try to think about what they mean. Because sometimes kids just passively sit there and wait for someone to tell them what to do. So if you begin this from day one, say, read that to me. Every day. Read that to me. Pretty soon you'll walk in and they'll just start reading it to you. Right? They know there's no point in waiting on you. They're going to have to do it. And you're going to see some initiation. If the task that they read, if the directions say, solve the problems on this page, then your next question should be, what are you going to do first? Planning, prioritizing, task analysis. These are all cognitive functions. So through questioning, specific questioning, you're going to elicit from them executive function practice, and you're going to coach them as they become independent in doing these things. So one of the most important things these kids are missing sometimes when they're struggling with executive functioning is thinking in categories or thinking in ways of sorting information. They need to be able to think inductively and deductively, parts to whole, whole to parts, general to specific. What class does this belong to? And one way to explain this to children is to say that your brain is a bunch of filing cabinets, and when you learn something new, you have to decide which drawer it goes in, and what folder it goes in, and what file it goes in. Because you're creating a hierarchy of meaning and of knowledge, a way that things relate to each other. And if you can define even those relationships, the frog is an amphibian because it has these characteristics, and it's an animal because it has these characteristics. And you begin to create for them this tree of knowledge that's all interrelated because you've had them come up with labels and categories. So you want to be sure that you are helping them, and even just when they're putting something in their binder, what category does this go in? What subject does this belong to? Are we going to put them in order by date? You're helping them learn strategies for organization. If they can tell you back, we're going to put these in order chronologically. We're going to put them in order by date because we're going to put the most recent at the front or at the back. Ask them questions and help them make the decisions, because you'll be able to see so much about where they are in their development with their executive functions. So, verbalizing, discussing, describing, analyzing, labeling, categorizing. Do this on non-academic subjects as well, and I'm sure you do. You have them match the socks, you have them fold the sheets, you have them figure out how to put the groceries in the bags where all the frozen stuff's in one, and all of the box things go together, and all the cans are together, because that's how you put them away when you get home. These are all strategies which are going to develop their executive functions. So lean on them to categorize and sort as much as possible. When they're in the middle of a task, sometimes throw this question at them. Now, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? Because it forces them to get out of the trees and come back and look at the forest. And that's the skill. We need to move them from specific to general back to specific and be able to make that transition. So if you can always ask them to go back and restate the goal again, then not only are they going to be able to monitor if they're still on track, and there's that monitoring executive function, but they can also see if they're on track to finish on time, right? So evaluation of the task at the end is another thing we want our kids to be able to do. Did I finish it? How do you know if you're done? Have you ever had a kid not be sure if we're done yet? Especially writing a paper. Do we need to go back over it one more time? Do I need to reword these sentences again? So it's hard sometimes for these kids to know. So ask them, what was the goal? Have we met the goal? Have we done everything we need to? Do y'all have any questions about teaching organization using some of the things I just talked about? Yes? He's asking if I have a book or a handbook with what I'm talking about today that I have put together, and I don't. I had training as an educational therapist, so I work with kids who have deficits in these areas. And so I'm trained to identify them and then directly stimulate them. But what I can do, I've been thinking about this for a couple of days, is, there's the nightly news, and this is a weekly newsletter that comes out from the school. I could probably put a short blog with an executive function focus or tip for the week and put a link. So if you open your nightly news, you could click on my little link and then you could read kind of a suggestion for the week. Would y'all like me to do that? Because I'd be happy to do that. Okay. Teach back is a great way to word that. Now, I'm not familiar with any particular curriculum that uses that term, but yes, teaching them back. Okay. Yes. Yes. Right, there's academic, yes. Schoolroom teachers, classroom teachers are taught pair and share, turn and talk. That's where they stop after the teacher has taught them something. They turn and they explain it to their buddy before they then begin to try to execute the task. Again, this is Vygotsky. This is the theorist I was just describing. It's the whole sense of they have to say it back to themselves before it makes sense, before it integrates with what they already know. So prior knowledge is the key to long-term. The working memory that we were talking about over here, prior knowledge is the key to recall. So they have to know what file folder to put it in, because that is their prior knowledge. They already have a file folder on trees, and if they're learning all the qualities of an elm tree and it goes in the right folder, they're going to connect with the other things they've learned about similar trees, and they're going to be able to recall the elm. But if it's a fragmented piece of information that's just floating in no man's land and there is no folder for it, they will never remember it. It's just not going to come back. It's kind of like your on your computer when you're looking for a document, and you have to find the pathway backwards. It's exactly the same concept when I'm explaining it to students. They have to be able to backtrack the connections, the meaningful connections of what they already have learned in order to be able to pull up the new knowledge that they just learned. And that's going to be the way to increase that working memory for them. Okay, I don't want to get too technical here. Okay, planning strategies. I like to teach planning by giving them the model of the final product first, then have them deconstruct the task and then reconstruct the task, because that's kind of what they have to be able to do. We could teach it from the ground up. We could teach them basic skills they need and then what they have to do next, and then show them what the final product's going to look like. But I prefer to teach with the model. And so if you're going to be teaching satellite study skills, for example, how you're going to start your day with your child at home on Wednesday morning, what I would recommend is that you act it out with them. And you do it and make it silly. And you make it funny. And this is not going to be, here's the rules, here's how we're going to do it, it has to be this way, we're going to be 8 o'clock, we're going to be down here. No, you come down and you've got on your beanie cap, and you got your backpack on, and you got your tennis shoes on, and you got maybe you dress up in a real uniform one day, and you come down the stairs and they're going, what in the world is Mama doing, right? And you act like you are starting your day. And then maybe you act it out 2 or 3 more times, and maybe they act it out with you, and then maybe you act it out and do it all wrong. You do it completely wrong. You wear the wrong outfit, or you don't start, and you mess it up, and you all are giggling on the floor, right? You're introducing it through modeling in a way that's non-confrontational. It doesn't raise the stress. You're just kind of setting those expectations, and you're making it fun. So think about you're training a skill. Would you punish your kid if they couldn't throw a strike after you've shown them twice? No. You're going to be demonstrating these skills many times. You're looking for incremental improvement. We're not judging it when it's a skill. And I'm going to tell you, 95% of the time, your kid wants to do it. He really wants to do it. She really is trying to do it. It's very unusual when it's rebellion. But when it is rebellion, you know it. You know when it's an attitude and there's some pushback. And that needs to be handled in a different way. But when they are just continuing to make mistakes, but they're sincere and they're still, you do not get impatient or frustrated. You just show it from a slightly different way. You make it, keep at it, because it'll come around sooner or later. Just like the whole year it took the young man in 7th grade to organize his backpack with the ice cream. Modeling. The other little skill here is called a think aloud. A think aloud is when you act like a student and you just think out loud. How am I going to do this math page? Well, the first thing I think I need to do is put my name on it. Oh, but wait, first I need a pencil. Oh, where do I keep my pencils? Oh yeah, they're over here. Okay, I'm going to go get my pencil over here, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to put my name on it. Then what do I do? Oh, yeah, I got to read the directions. I wonder what I'm supposed to do on this page. Read the directions. So you're just talking out, you're modeling the type of thinking that you want your little one to be following along with, right? So Think Aloud is a great tool for helping them understand what they should be thinking when they're just blank, or they're just waiting for you, or they're passive. So remember, the one doing the talking is the one doing the learning. So if that's the case, even after you're thinking aloud and talking out loud, you might want to have them do what? Now, what did I just do? How did I do that? What did I do first? And ask them then to repeat back to you and tell you what you've just done and how they are going to do it. And what did I do first? What did I do second? What did I do third? How are you going to do that? And see if they can tell you. All right, I'm going to see if y'all have questions or want to share with some planning strategies. Anybody think of things y'all have done that worked really well with teaching our kids to plan that you would like to share with us or share with your table, or questions? Questions about planning. How many of you teach your kids to use a day planner? One. How old should a child be when they start using some kind of calendar or planner or tool like that? What do you think? So I have 6 children, and I homeschooled them, and my oldest is severely disabled. She's got physical disabilities as well as learning disabilities. And, bless her heart, it just took a long time to teach her any new skill. And one thing I found that worked with her was something I called a touch poster. And this is something you might use instead of a day planner. I would take a photo of each thing I wanted her to do. So if it was get your pencil, I'd take a picture of her with her hand on the pencil box, right? Or sit at the chair, I would sit at the table, I would take a photo of her sitting at the table. And I just made a poster with these things in a row, actually a column. And when she was learning a new skill, she would have to touch it and do it. Touch, do, touch, do, touch, do, touch, do, touch, do. And the photo was a visual for them, and even better, tell me what it is too. So again, reinforcing that self-talk and reinforcing those steps. So she also had a particular birth defect, and when she was about 4 or 5, I realized it was really important for her to learn about her own needs, physical needs. And so I made a little construction paper book that talked about things she could and could not eat, things she had, little exercises she had to do every day, certain medicine she had to take. And I took photos of every one of those activities, and we had this little book, and she would have to read it to me every night, telling me the things she had to eat or not eat, things, how much water she had to drink, how she had to care for her skin, whatever it was that we were working on. So if you can come up with like a visual for them to be able to learn how to take responsibility for these things. It doesn't have to be, the day runner for your second grader, but it can be something similar that's a visual representation that they can have some kind of physical interaction with, move the dots, we had a little program called a Chorganizer. Anybody old enough to remember Chorganizers? Great little chart. It had a little card that had a picture of the chore, and it had on the back 3 or 4 steps to complete the chore, and the child would take it off the chart and put it in the pocket as soon as it was done. And these kids could carry them with them, or they could just read them and come back and put them in there, and it was a super way to get that physicality involved in training the children in the sequences and in the planning of their own activities. Okay. All right. Gosh, I get way too much. I'm not going to read it all to you guys. Okay. We want our kids to learn to plan for how long something's going to take and how much room it's going to take. How much space they need. So these are also questions. When they sit down to do a task that's on their checklist, say, how long is this going to take you? And you might be surprised. Some of these kids, when they set their own time limit, they work faster. If it's 8 minutes, I'm going to get this done in 8 minutes. And you go, well, good. How are we going to know if it's done in 8 minutes? Well, we can set the timer. Okay, well, let's set the timer. Let's set the timer. All right, let's see if you make it. You think you're going to really make it in 8 minutes? I don't think you're going to make it in 8 minutes. Yeah, I can. You set that timer, make it, and if they don't make it, no big deal. Because you didn't set the timer. You're not putting a limit or expectation on their setting their own timer, because now they want to focus and they want to work better. So asking them how long is this going to take, and then helping them set up some way to check themselves is going to increase their monitoring and their planning behaviors also. Okie dokie. Last one, initiation, how to get them to start. I already mentioned the touch charts. It's a great little tool. They can even make a cartoon where they do a little sketch of each thing they're supposed to do in order. There's just all variety of ways to put up some type of a touch chart. You can do, create little mnemonics for any kind of startup routine. How many of y'all have some kind of startup routine in the morning for brushing your teeth, getting your breakfast, making your bed, whatever, right? Do you have something visual or something written down or something on the wall? Yes. So this is exactly, these are how you teach initiation strategies. Could you come up with an acronym for those activities? Right? So teachers in the classroom do this all the time. They come up with SQ3R, or, we're all going to grab our book and sit and read, and they come up with G for grab and B for book, and then the kids chant it, and then they do it. So come up with some simple little mnemonic to make it fun and to help the kids memorize it, and then they have it to self-talk and to remind themselves what their startup routines are. Okay, model the behavior, use touch charts. Be sure to remember not to read the directions to your students, because what did I say? The one, what? The one doing the talking is the one doing the learning. Let's all say it again. The one doing the talking is the one doing the learning. Have them tell you their steps in their math problem. Why they thought that. What was the goal again? Find the difference. Okay, what does difference mean? Asking questions, asking questions, asking questions. And I also love the idea of communicating through your body language, that you expect them to work independently. So when you start with your student, and you're sitting with them at the kitchen table or the couch, and they get started, and they're focused, they're working, then you just say, I'll be right back. That communicate, even if you're gone for just 20 seconds, it communicates a trust. You trust them. They're going to keep doing what they've just said that they're going to do for you. Then, it also takes the pressure off that you're micromanaging them. And they will rise to that. They enjoy being able to work by themselves and not be watched every second. And then when you come back through, I love how you're focused. call out specific praise on the positive executive function behaviors that you notice. Wow, you organized that chart perfectly. Everything is in order exactly the way it's supposed to go. So if you can plan on giving them 7 positives to every correction, 7 positive call-outs for every one time that you say, do it better now, do it a little different, then your child is going to soar in developing these executive functions, and they're going to enjoy them, and they're going to take pride in them. But more than that, you're going to be training their character. You're training their character to be thoughtful, to be attentive, to be self-controlled, to give their best effort, to do it in a timely manner, to do it in an orderly way, and to please the Lord, because that's really what we're here to train them to do. So see school as just one little tool to train the heart of your child for their social, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Again, academics is down on the scale of importance. What we're really looking for here is a way to train our children's hearts and their minds and their souls, that they're going to be great parents one day, that they're going to be great spouses one day, that they're going to be great employees one day, right? And just to keep that at heart. Okay, I want to meet every one of you. I'll be speaking again tomorrow, just introducing the Academic Service Center and what the role of that little program here at school is, and how I can help you in that role. So please, if you have any questions, I'm not going to keep you guys. It's been a long day, but I will be here as long as you want if you'd like to come up and visit with me some more. Thank you so much for your attention.